Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, we are here to talk about the upcoming top and active alliance leaders questionnaire on the state of the game. Now, we've done one of these before. I'll be showing that off to you in a moment and going over a little bit, along with showing you the V1 draft for the updated form. Because I honestly thought to myself, you know what? I might as well open this up and ask people out there on what are some of your biggest pain points, what are things you'd like to see added, what are things you'd like to see changed, what are things you'd like to see removed. And we ended up seeing a level of success with this the last time around when we did this. Gosh, it might have been almost a year ago when we did that video. I'd have to look on the date. And after we ended up taking and polling about 85 leaders from, again, top and active alliances throughout the game, I ended up sharing this with Leo and Asya from the community team. And this was passed up to the developers from what they had confirmed with me. After this was passed up, we ended up seeing a number of things that were then changed and or added into the game based on the feedback. Now, this isn't to say that everything that was provided to them got changed, but there were some things that were. And I'll show you some of those things too as well when we look at the old state of the game or the previous one that we did, and then we'll go over the new one. But I obviously very much want to hear from you because, and let me know in the comments, again, anything you think once I show you the new form, if you got a pain point or something that you think you would love to hear from Alliance representatives on, because this is very much a question or questions that I can put into the form, so that way we'll get responses and hear from the leads. The reason why I think this is important is actually for a number of reasons. Number one is that when you're asking leaders or representatives of alliances, they hear and they speak to the people that are in their alliances a lot more than someone like myself would, because I'm not there. And they can also be in more places at once as it pertains to not only multiple alliances but multiple kingdoms when I include a lot of different alliance leads, or I should say alliance reps. And because of this, they get a lot more pieces of feedback. The outreach is a lot more expansive than it is for me if I was to go and try and do that, and it just saves me a lot of time overall. The second part is that when you think about the people that are in positions to essentially kind of be, hand extensions of developers or people that are in good positions to give what you would argue is quality or maybe higher quality feedback, I would say that it is a representative or an alliance lead for an alliance that is able to give that feedback, especially when they could do it amongst their peers, being other alliance leads or alliance representatives. And so when you get this kind of top 1% of individuals that are there in this pool to give specific feedback that is going to be able to really make some kind of meaningful impact, I think it's a great thing. And that's one of the reasons why I've always been a big proponent of wanting to gather as many alliance leads, as many alliance representatives from top and active alliances from season 2 and beyond, so that way we can have these people in positions to give good quality and consistent feedback to the developers. And I think this is one of the best initiatives that I very much have enjoyed doing. We've got a lot of great feedback and responses from people that are aware of this and that participated in the last round. So, with all that being said, let's go and take a look at the form that we ended up doing the last time. So we got 84 responses here. And we can see as we kind of go through, you'll see some alliance names, or these are some people that filled out the form the last time around, and the amount of power that they had as well. So you can see there are some ranges, right? Most of these were pretty decently powered at the time. Some were a little bit lower, but they just could have still been in season 2 and beyond. It is also good, I believe, to kind of get a diverse set or range of people that are giving feedback, whether they're just starting out or they've been playing for a while. And so one of the things I want to talk about is something that we did see a change from, and I've referenced this before, is when we had asked people, how long should a KVK season be? Well, right, if you remember, I think it was still around 90 days or so, and you had, a quarter of the people saying leave as is. We ended up having about 40% of the people saying that it should be shortened, right? One said 50 days, one said 60 days. You had one over here that said 45 days, right? If you added all these up, right, this exceeded 50%. Over 50%, probably 60, 65% for people that wanted it to be shorter. What did we see from that? Well, after this got released, however long, if it was 1 or 2 updates after, we did end up seeing them reduce it, right? Going from what it was 90 to the 55-day that we have currently. So again, whether you want to say that it was because of this or this influenced and factored into that, I like to believe at minimum that it did factor in. When we think about matchmaking, the second one, what was one thing that we ended up seeing from people, right? We saw most people were okay, right? We saw about 48% of the vote saying we're okay doing a top, mid, lower, whereas the other percent of the vote had variance, but we had 33 or a third of the vote saying we'd like to see a top-down format. Now remember, previously it was this mix of top, middle, and low. Over the past few seasons, we've been seeing a change where they have started going top-down. And then now, in Season of Strife Winners Upon Us, there are a couple KVKs that have kind of gone back to this mixed approach where it's like this top, middle, low. Now, part of that is because of, well, I should say part of it can be because of migration movement. It can be because of changes in alliance structuring. If it's people leaning out, if it's people that are, inactives that are just getting zeroed, etc., whatever it may be, there you will start to see, and I guess could see, some of that happening. Now, I want to say that I hope it doesn't necessarily continue to happen. I hope that maybe it's just a couple KVK groups. Part of it could also just be because the groups are thinning out more as time goes on, and if you don't add enough kingdoms to the kingdom pool, you also will have limitations where some kingdoms might have been okay a season ago, and then maybe some are a little bit lower, so they just might not be match worthy or potential for certain kingdoms to be put into a particular group. And so that's obviously one of the things that the COD team has to figure out on adding more kingdoms to the current kingdom pool, right? To, at least to the first and main or primary KVK group, right? Which is the 1 through 10, 22 through 90, 213 to 240, 277 to 288, and then now recently added 314. But they do need to be trying to figure out a way to add more kingdoms to that primary first pool. But this is one of those things where you see at least some people that were for wanting this kind of top-down approach. And I do think that it has worked out for the better. Even if it may not have been the majority overwhelming here based on this, clearly there was at least people that were interested in this. And what did we see a change? Well, that's what the change that we ended up seeing. People going more top-down, having more bounce power matchmaking, not having this kind of top, mid, low approach. And so again, you'll see a number of questions that we had asked people on here. And the important takeaway is that we got a lot of feedback. And the feedback was passed along to the appropriate people. And we saw some changes happen from that. These are all, I think, really important opportunities if we want to, and I'm not saying we're over here to like unionize, right? Because I've heard some people kind of throw that around. And that's not to say that I think that's a bad thing. But for me, I think it's just more about let's get the people that are best suited to give the feedback based on certain, I guess, criteria, right, that we're going off of. In this case, leaders and representatives of alliances. And then let's allow for them to give that feedback in an open space. And then let's send that feedback to the appropriate people we need to, right, in this case being the COD team and devs. Okay, so now I want to show you the current form that we have. So this is my updated V1. It is, I still got to go through a couple rounds. I've actually already reached out to a number of leads. Hi, sweetie. I've already reached out to a number of alliance representatives and leaders, asking them for feedback. I think I've reached out to maybe 30 or 40 people. And I like to always reach out early and let people know this is kind of what I got so far after I did the V1 draft. And so some of these are, and that's just to get their feedback if they think, hey, this question's really good, or hey, I'd like for you to see you add this. Maybe you should change this up so it's a little more understood. Whatever that feedback may be, I like to ask to get to kind of go through that little Shark Tank round, if you will. And so, I'm just going to go through some of these right now, right? So we have like, how long should a KVK season be? This is kind of updated. Some questions in here are consistent from what we had, and we obviously have some new questions as well. One of the things I do like, right, what are the strengths, opportunities, likes, and dislikes for the current matchmaking system? How do you feel about Bastion usage? What is good and bad about Bastions, right? I think that's really good to try to identify and figure out what are kind of the pros and cons of Bastions, as that's something that I also feel that if you're a developer and you're reading that, you can probably have a better takeaway. And that's why a lot of the questions you'll see are formatted or worded in a way, at least as it pertains to how can a developer take that and how can they take something away from that, right? And view that as kind of quality feedback. We have, what areas of the map do you enjoy fighting in the most? Would you like to see barricades make a comeback? Thoughts on if you should be able to build forts in final zones or not, right? Oh, I think I added an other. I got to remove some of those. Would you like to see a system for KVK where you can select kingdoms to ally with for a season before it starts? And I should say for the season to ally. We'll just say to ally with. It doesn't need to be that. Now that I'm thinking about it, right? And we'll just kind of remove some of these others now that I'm. Might as well while I'm here. Anyways, so then we go to, and then the other one. This is actually what I really like. This is where we ask, would you from the follow up from above? Would you like to see each allied group, assuming 2 groups, take a turn to pick a starting zone for KVK? So you'd have, like Alliance A from Group 1, right, or Group A Alliance 1. They get to pick their starting zone, and then you go over to Group 2, and it's Alliance 1. Then they get to pick their starting zone. Then it goes back, right? So it's kind of like a pick and a ban phase in League of Legends, right, so to speak, or other games that might have some kind of pick or ban phase. This is something interesting that I actually think could be, I think it could solve a lot of problems, right, where if, first off, you're able to select kingdoms you want to ally with beforehand and kind of figure out the matchmaking. Now, you could also do this where you just force the groups. And then the groups can still do their pick phase, right, on where they want to start out in. Because as we all know, where you start out on can very much depend on if you're going to see PvP in Zone 2 or not, just depending on what the map is. Or we could just say early PvP. And so maybe we'll work one of those questions in, but this is very much, I think, at least one way that they could adjust things, whether it's allowing people to select kingdoms they want to ally with before the KVK season starts, or forcing everyone into groups. And then you're already put into like this camp or that camp, right? Kind of like what they did with Light and Dark and Rock, but maybe, some variables there. We asked, would you be okay if they delayed the start of the next season in order to add more kingdoms to your server pool? This, I think, is really important. And I say that because with this, the idea being that, at least I believe, that this should be a yes. That's kind of where I land on it, is because I just think that even if you're having to wait a couple extra weeks and you can get 100 new kingdoms or more into your kingdom pool, that you're just going to have more balanced matches. You're going to have a higher percentage chance of being able to have longer lasting fights. And then you also get more variety in future KVK season group pairings as well. I just think that there's a lot of benefits of it, but it has to be something that like the CoD team would have to like explain to people, like this is what we're doing, but more importantly, this is why we're doing it. I also understand that people want to get right into the PvP right away, but sometimes, at least with the way they're doing it, unless they come up with a new system, right, it to me, it almost feels like that's the work right now, or the workaround they would be able to do. We ask, like, what troops have been most used in battles from what you've seen, war and PvP. Kind of iffy on that one. Would you like to see harder counter system, right? This is where we kind of talk about like having the pure triangle counter, where it's a little bit harder in that case. It's a little more clear and defined, where, if you're using something like an infantry against a cavalry unit or something, right? It's like a harder counter, or the stats or percentages are harder countered. So it's, again, infantry is like a clear victor, unless it's like a T1 or a T2 cav going up against a T5 infantry, right? Like it would have to just be something kind of steep. So again, I kind of like to ask how people think about that, because I just kind of think of I guess kind of, I don't want to say like a chess effect, but like an RTS kind of effect, where it's, you have like an infantry, a tank, a chopper type of a thing, right? And it's like the chopper kills the tank, the tank kills the infantry, infantry kills the chopper, right? Kind of a thing. And then, would you like to see unit tier T1 through T5 breakdowns for kills, deaths, heals, merit, and glory points on player profiles and leaderboards? How long should war last throughout a KVK season if the season's 55 days for players to be fulfilled? Days can be spread out, and does not mean this has to happen every day consecutively, but like, what's the total amount of days you would like to see PvP last in a season, right? Do you want, would you like to get 10 days of PvP out of a season? Do you want to get 20 days? Do you want to get 2 days, 5 days? And then we have home kingdom migration, right? Would you like to know, what would you like to know about server capacity that we do not already know? Kind of reworded this question. How long should kingdoms wait to start their next KVK after one finishes? What could they add to home kingdoms in order to make the rest period there more engaging before the next KVK starts? What would you like to see them add to the king-queen system? Would you like to see them add the ability to accept or deny all players, where everyone, regardless of power, would need to apply to a kingdom? I have to remove these because I keep forgetting about these others. PvE behemoths, right? Do you think there are enough events in game to keep players engaged? We'll remove that. What kind of events would you like to see added to the game? Alliance, right? Would you like to see the village system reverted back to what it previously was, right? Where the buffs would apply alliance-wide to every member. How do you feel about the current village system compared to what it was previously? What would you like to see added to the game or change that would help an alliance's leadership? Manage the alliance better to improve quality of life? What activities do you run in your alliance to keep things fun, fresh, and motivating, right? So, it's got to be somewhat educational, maybe something that other alliances can take away. What are some challenges your alliance faces or runs into when it comes to managing so many players? I think that's really important because that kind of gives the developers an insight into, like, what are the people actually doing? Roots of War. On average, how would you rate the matchmaking in Row? How does your alliance prioritize Row signups? What do you like and dislike about Row? What would you like to be able to spectate other Row matches outside of your alliance? Would you like to see custom lobbies for Row so you can practice against no one, the AI, or even schedule scrimmages against other Row teams? What would you like to see removed, changed, or added to Row? Then we have like some general questions. These are kind of general miscellaneous. Would you like to see all heroes eventually make their way to the Tavern Gold Chest as an addition or after a period of time from their release, even if they start out paywall gated or in premium currency events? So it doesn't mean they're getting removed from those, but they're getting added to Tavern Gold Chest after a period of time post-release. How would you rate the communication from the developers thus far? How would you like to see the limit on gem gathering removed? Anything you would like to see removed, changed, or added? Right, so that's kind of what we got so far. There are a couple other ideas I have for possible other questions. Again, this is somewhat lengthy too as well, but it's kind of meant to be that way because we don't do it that often. But like I said, if you guys have any ideas on questions you would like to maybe see added, maybe something changed, maybe a question removed from what we have so far, let me know in the comments down below. I'll definitely be paying close attention to the comments as I usually do because I just like to read. And so this is something that I hope maybe I'll end up hearing some really good ones there, and we might be able to work out some of those in here. And then lastly, if you are Alliance rep for a top and active Alliance in a kingdom, and you are in Season 2 and beyond and you are not already a part of our Roundtable or King's Guard group, please feel free to DM me on Discord. I'm happy to get you added in, as we do have a list of people that are there already. I don't know where I'm at. Let me see if I can show you guys the list real quick. Where am I going? Cool Kids, and then we'll go RT list. So we do have a list right now of all the people that are here, right? So this is kind of, I'll just, again, you guys can pause. Let me just go to, where was that? 170 and then 54. So that's everyone we have in here right now. I think there's one or two that I probably have to make some adjustments on. But aside from that, if your name isn't on this list or you would like to be included, just reach out to me on Discord. Easiest way to get a hold of me. That's going to do it for me. As always, hope you enjoy. Until next time, we'll catch you guys later.